Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin seyyidil evvelin ve ahirin. Medet ya Resulallah. Medet ya Resulallah. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل صلاة وَالْاَخَّرْتُ الْعِشَاءِ إلى ثُلْثُ الليل. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki eğer ümmetime ağır gelmeyecek olsaydı onlara her namazdan önce misvak kullanmalarını emreder.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that if it wouldn't have been too difficult for my people, I would have ordered them to use miswak before every prayer.
Bu yatsı namazını gecenin 1/3 geçene kadar geciktirirdim.
And moreover, if it hadn't been too difficult for my people, I would have ordered them to delay the prayer of Isha after 1/3 of the night had passed.
Bunlar misvak kullanması çok faziletli.
There are great blessings in using miswak.
Onun için ama bazen de herkes zor oluyor bazı insanlara.
But for some people, it may be too difficult to use miswak before every prayer.
Devamlı misvak kullanmak. Onun için emretmemeli Peygamber Efendimiz onu.
And since it may be too difficult for people to constantly use miswak, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did not order us to use miswak.
Yapan çok faziletini görür.
However, those who use miswak will obtain the blessings and the rewards of using it.
Sevabını alır. Yatsı namazında onu da geciktirmek daha aftaldır ama
And according to our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, it is more acceptable to delay the prayer of Isha.
Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem bize merhameten ne zaman kılınırsa yine de iyidir.
But in order to not make it too difficult for people, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did not order us to delay the prayer of Isha after 1/3 of the night had passed. Instead, it is acceptable for us to perform the prayer of Isha whenever it is time.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لولا ضعف الضعيف وسقم مستقيم لأخذت صلاة العتمة. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki eğer zayıfın zayıflığı ve hasta kişinin hastalığı olmasaydı yatsı namazını geciktirirdim.
And again, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says that if it were not to the weakness of people and if it were not to the difficult situations of sick people, I would have asked you to delay the prayer of Isha.
Çünkü yatsı eskiden şimdiki gibi değil, karanlık oluyordu. O vakit insanlar hemen kılıp yatmak isterdi.
In former times, it was not like today. In former times, when the darkness of the night came, people simply just wanted to go to sleep as quickly as possible.
Şimdi gece yarısına kadar da oturuyor.
Now we see that people stay up until midnight.
Hasta olan da aynı şekilde onu vaktini girmesini bekler, yatsı namazını girsin de hemen kılıp yatayım, istirahat edeyim diye.
However, for example, when you are sick, it may be too difficult for you to delay the prayer of Isha. You may just want to perform the prayer as soon as the time for it has come in order to rest.
Onun için Peygamber Efendimiz merhameten bize vaktinde kılabiliriz diyor.
Therefore, as a mercy, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did not order us, he did not instruct us to perform Isha prayer after 1/3 of the night had passed. Instead, he allowed us as a mercy to perform Isha prayer just when the time is right to perform Isha prayer.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس الفجر بالأبيض المستطيل في الأفق ولكنه الأحمر المعترض. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki fecir yani şafak ufukta uzunlamasına görülen beyazlık değildir. Tabii bunlar şimdi ne beyazını görüyoruz, ne siyahını, ne kırmızısını. Yani o vakit
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, describes the time of Fajr in the dawn when it's time to perform Fajr prayer. And he said it's not Fajr when there's white light to be seen along the horizon. And of course, in the time we now live in, there's nothing to be seen. We can no longer distinguish the different stages of the morning.
insanlar hava temiz, binalar yok.
In the former times, the sky was clear. There were no high buildings.
Yüksek şey yok. Bu duman yok, şey yok, hiçbir şey yok.
There was nothing that polluted the air, and people had a clear sight of the horizon.
Onu rahat rahat görebiliyorlardı.
And thus they could easily determine the time.
Bir de o vakitte tabii saat yoktu.
And thus they would rely on observing the rise and the sun and the setting of the sun. And they had no other means to determine the right time for prayer. They did not have watches as we have today.
Ne evde saat vardı, ne insanın elinde kol saat vardı. Onlar anlarlardı. Gecenin halinden. Şimdi gecenin
They neither had a clock at home nor did they wear watches. They simply observed the development of the day with sunset and sunrise, and observed the stages of the night in order to determine when it's time to pray.
12 tane değişik ismi vardı.
For example, the night they distinguished the night, they differentiated between 12 different stages of the night, and they would give to these 12 different stages different names.
Vaktin bir ismi, her saatin bir ismi vardı. Onlar biliyor.
Every hour in those 12 stages, every stage during the night had a different name, and they would know it.
Şimdi biz akşam hiçbir şey bildiğimiz yok tabii. Saatte bakmadan hiçbir şey bilmeyiz.
And now we can no longer distinguish between evening and nighttime. We cannot say what time it is or what stage of the day it is without just looking at our clock or at the watch.
Onu Peygamber Efendimiz gösteriyor ki yani şafak ilk başta birinci şafak olur, beyaz olur.
And our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, describes the various stages of dawn, and he speaks of white light at the horizon.
O değildir yani yani sabah namazı girmiş olmaz.
And he says that when you see that white light at the horizon during dawn time, that is not yet the time when it's time to perform Fajr.
İmsak da olmuş olmaz. O vakitte ondan sonraki enine olan kırmızılıktır.
The time for Fajr comes, as our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says, when at the horizon there's some redness to be seen.
Daha sonra kırmızılık çıkar. O vakit sabah namazı girmiş olur.
After that white light at the horizon, there will emerge more reddish light, and when you see that red light, that's the time for Fajr prayer.
İmsak da olur, artık oruç olmuş olur, yemek yenmez.
That is the time when the time of imsak is over. It's the time when Fajr has begun, and when you start fasting.
قال رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نوروا بالفجر فإنه أعظم للأجر. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki sabah namazının ufuk aydınlanınca kılınız. Yani sabah namazı ezan okunduktan sonra bir 15-20 dakika falan başlar aydınlanmaya.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says that the time to perform Fajr prayer is when the horizon lightens up and there's lightness to be seen, and it is approximately about after the adhan 20 minutes.
O vakte kadar geciktirin diyor Peygamber Efendimiz sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem.
And our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, recommends us to not perform Fajr prayer when it's still dark, but when there is some light to be seen at the horizon.
Böylesi sevap açısından daha büyüktür.
you will be obtaining more rewards if you wait until that time, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says.
Tabi vakit gelince gene kılabilir ama sevap, fazilet daha faziletli olan biraz daha aydınlanmasını beklemek.
Of course, you may perform Fajr prayer as soon as it is time to perform Fajr prayer, but there are more blessings to be received when you wait until there is more light to be seen on the horizon.
Çok da aydınlanma değil de biraz. Çünkü fazla aydınlanınca ondan sonra gün ve kerahat vaktine girmiş olur.
However, one should be careful to not wait until there's too much light, because then it may be just the time of sunrise when it is prohibited to perform prayer.
Olabiliyor. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقت العشاء إذا ملأ الليل بطن كل واد. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem gene buyuruyor ki yatsı namazının vakti gece karanlığı her vadinin içini doldurduğu zamandır.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, describes that the time for Isha prayer is when the night comes and the darkness comes and there's no longer any valley or mountain to be seen.
Yani karanlık olur, vadilerde artık bir şey görünmez. Yatsı vakti girmiş olur. Yani biz onlar ne vadi kaldı bizde ne düzlük, hepsi bina başka şey yok.
And now the time is different. There's no more mountains to be seen or valleys to be seen, because everything, the surface has been, on the surface of everywhere they have been built buildings and houses, and there's no longer this distinction to be made, because you can no longer even see the mountains or the valleys because of all these buildings nowadays.
Onun için saate bakıp Allah'a şükür her tarafta da ezanlar var. Onlara göre şey yapacağız.
Therefore, we need to check the time in order to determine when it's time for prayer, or we need to listen to the azan. And we thank Allah Almighty that we have these possibilities these days.
Ama tabii ezan olmayan memleketler de var. Gayrimüslim memleketler. Müslümanlar çoğu zaman
Of course, there are also non-Muslim countries where there's no adhan recited.
Gidebiliyor oralara falan. Orada da saatine, vaktine bakıp vakit girdiyse namazını kılar.
In those non-Muslim countries, one needs to be aware of the right time of prayer and constantly check the prayer time, and then perform one's prayer as soon as it is time to do so.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الأعمال إلى الله صلاة لوقتها ثم بر الوالدين ثم الجهاد في سبيل الله. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki Allah katında amellerin en güzeli.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, described the deeds that are most accepted in the divine presence.
Vaktinde kılınan namaz.
And he said it is the prayer that is performed at proper time.
Allah'ın en sevdiği şey Allah Azze ve Celle'ye namazı vaktinde kılmak.
This is what Allah Almighty likes and loves. He likes us to perform our prayers right on time.
Kazaya bırakmamak.
And we should not miss out our prayers.
Kazaya bırakılan namaz bayat yemekten daha beter olur. Yani o hiç makbul olmaz. Allah kabul eder tabii de çok büyük faziletini kaybetmiş olur.
If we'll miss out our prayers, it turns into food that has expired and that has completely become dry, and it's become even worse than that. Therefore, we should not miss out on our prayers.
Bundan sonra yani ilk başta vaktinde kılınan namaz en büyük Allah'ın sevdiği işlerdendir, ibadetlerdendir. Ondan sonraki anneye babaya yapılan iyilik.
Then, what Allah Almighty loves the most is to see us perform our prayers punctually, and then He loves us. Secondly, He loves us to do goodness towards our parents.
Yani namazdan sonra geliyor anneye babaya yapılan iyilik.
To do goodness for one's parents comes after having performed one's prayers.
Sonra Allah yolunda yapılan cihattır.
And what Allah Almighty loves the most among after having performed one's prayers punctually and performing goodness towards one's parents, is to fight for Allah Almighty's cause.
Yani üçüncüsü cihat, bunlar hepsini yapmak lazım.
At the third rank is to fight for Allah Almighty's cause, to perform jihad, and it is one's obligation to do these three things.
Cihad, yani nefsine mücadele etmek.
Of course, there are various forms of performing jihad, and one of them is to fight against one's ego.
Sırf şimdi insan, bu zaman insanları işte kafir saldırıyor, ediyor. Her şeyin yeri var, kendi vakti vardır. Yapılan, kendi kafana göre yapılan şey makbul olmaz.
And now we see that the Muslim world lives in a miserable state, and individuals want to declare war and want to declare jihad, and it is not something you can decide as an individual. There is a right time for everything, and there are certain rules to be observed in order to proclaim war or jihad, and it is not something you can decide as an individual.
Onun için şimdiki cihad, gitsen de zaten kimse seni oraya sokmaz, sen şey yapamazsın.
And even if you went there to fight, they would not even allow you to enter the war zone.
Onun için nefsine cihad edeceksin.
The fight we have and the fight we perform, the war we wage, is against our egos.
Nefsin, o bizim nefsimiz en büyük kafirden de daha büyük düşmandır bize.
Our ego is the worst enemy, and our ego is much worse than the greatest disbeliever.
Allah muhafaza etsin şerrinden.
May Allah Almighty protect us from the evil of our egos.
Millet nefsine şey olmuş, teslim olmuş gidiyor millet.
People have become the slaves of their egos, yet they claim to proclaim jihad, and yet they want to go fighting while they are slaves of their egos.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الأعمال الصلاة لوقتها وبر الوالدين. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki amellerin en üstü, yani ibadetlerin en üstü.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says about the best of all deeds and the best of all kinds of worship
Vaktinde kılınan namaz.
Is to perform prayer punctually, right on the time.
Ve anne babaya yapılan iyiliktir.
And to do goodness towards one's parents.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الأعمال الصلاة في أول وقتها. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki yine en üstün amel vaktin başlangıcında kılınan namazdır.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says that the best of deeds is to perform prayer right at the beginning.
Namaz, ezan duydun mu? Cami varsa git cemaate.
If you hear the adhan, then leave things aside and go to the mosque to perform your prayer in Jama'ah.
Yoksa hemen kıl.
And if there's no mosque nearby or no Jama'ah, then go ahead and quickly perform your prayer right on time.
Geciktirmeden
do not delay your prayer.
Onu kıl. Çünkü geciktirirsen Allah bilir ne olur ne kalır.
Because if you postpone your prayer, you don't know whether you will live that long and whether you will get the chance to actually fulfill your duty.
Onun için en iyisi, en güzeli diyor Peygamber Aleyhisselam vaktine kılınan namaz.
Therefore, the best is to perform one's prayer right on time, as our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says.
Vaktin başında kılınan namaz.
The prayer that is performed right on time at the beginning.
Bir de buradan bir hikmet de var. Ezan okundu, vakit girdi. Sen namazını kıldın, Allah kabul etsin. Biraz geciktirdin, bilmiyorsun daha. Sen vaktin sonuna kadar yaşayacak mısın, yaşamayacak mısın? O da bir şeydir.
And there's also wisdom why we should hasten to perform our prayers is because when adhan is recited, the time for prayer has come. And if you perform your prayer, you will have fulfilled your duty. But if you postpone or delay your prayer, you don't know whether you will actually live that long to perform your prayer.
Onun için en iyisi vaktinde kılıp
Therefore, one should perform one's prayer right on time,
ahirete hiçbir namaz bırakmamak.
so that if you leave this world, you will leave this world having all your duties fulfilled.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الأعمال الصلاة لوقتها وبر الوالدين والجهاد في سبيل الله. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki amellerin en üstünü
Again, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says that the best of deeds
vaktinde kılınan namaz,
is to perform one's prayer punctually,
anne babaya yapılan iyilik
is to do goodness to one's parents,
ve Allah yolunda yapılan cihattır.
and to fight on Allah Almighty's way.
Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki yani evvelül vakt rıdvanullah ve vasatul vakt rahmetullah ve ahirül vakt afullah. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says
vaktin başlangıcında kılan namaz Allah'ın rızasına,
the prayer performed right at the beginning of prayer time will be the means for you to obtain Allah Almighty's satisfaction.
vaktin ortasında kılınan namaz Allah'ın rahmetine,
The prayer performed at the middle of time will be the means for you to obtain Allah Almighty's mercy.
ve vaktin sonunda kılınan namaz Allah'ın affına ve
And the prayer to be performed at the end of prayer time will be the means for you to obtain Allah Almighty's forgiveness.
meseledir. Yani birincisi en faziletli olan Allah'ın rızası, en mühim şey bizde Allah'ın rızasıdır.
The most acceptable, the deed with the greatest virtue is to obtain Allah Almighty's satisfaction, and that is to be achieved by performing one's prayers right on time at the beginning.
Ondan sonra Allah'ın rahmeti de tabii
Then Allah Almighty's mercy comes next,
ondan sonra geliyor. Rızasından sonra Allah merhamet etsin bize.
and after obtaining Allah Almighty's satisfaction, may Allah Almighty have mercy on us.
En sonunda kılınan namaz da Allah affetsin bizi demek.
And if you perform your prayer at the very end of that prayer time, that means may Allah Almighty forgive us.
Onun için birinci vaktinde kılınan namaz şeydir.
Therefore, the prayer that is performed right at the beginning is most acceptable.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أول الوقت رضوان الله وآخر الوقت عفو الله. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki vaktin başlangıcında kılınan namaz Allah'ın rızasına ve vaktin sonunda kılınan namaz Allah'ın affına vesiledir.
The prayer to be performed at the beginning of time will be the means for you to obtain Allah Almighty's satisfaction, and the prayer to be performed at the end of the prayer time will be the means to obtain Allah Almighty's forgiveness.
Yani rızası çok mühimdir Allah'ın.
Allah Almighty's satisfaction is most important.
Rızası olduktan sonra hep merhamete de affı da hepsi olmuş olur.
And if you obtain Allah Almighty's satisfaction, then you will have obtained Allah Almighty's mercy and forgiveness.
Ama öteki türlü affına Allah affetsin bizi çok geciktirdik namazı diye.
Otherwise, you will only be obtaining Allah Almighty's forgiveness, and you will only have the chance if you perform your prayer at the end of time. This means that you say, "Oh Allah Almighty, forgive us."
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خير الأعمال الصلاة في أول وقتها. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki amellerin en hayırlısı vaktinin başlangıcında kılınan namazdır.
The most blessed of all deeds is the prayer that is performed at the beginning.
vaktini işte müsait olunca hemen geciktirmeden onu kılmak lazım.
If you have the time and the possibilities, if the prayer time has just arrived, then you should perform your prayer right at the beginning of that time.
Bazen de mesela insan yolculukta oluyor. Araba olunca muhakkak bir yer bulur, kılınır.
When you drive by car during a journey, for example, one should be in awareness of prayer time, and if prayer time arrives, one should stop and take one's time to perform one's prayer.
Olmasa yolun kenarında otobüste bile olunca duruyorlar orada burada çay içmeye orada hemen kılabilir insan.
And even if you travel by bus, there will always be pauses along the journey, and you can use these pauses while people go drinking tea to perform a prayer.
Şimdi bazı insanlar uçakta yere değmediği için namaz kabul olmaz.
Some people say that if you pray in the airplane, because you do not touch the ground, your prayer will not be accepted, they say.
Nerede olursa kabul Allah fe'ineme tevellu fesemme vecillah diyor Allah azze ve celle. Nerede olursanız namaz kılınır.
Wherever you are, you can perform your prayer.
Şimdi uçakta vakit girdi mi hemen kılın. Geciktirmeye gerek yok.
If you're on the airplane, perform your prayer. There's no need to delay.
Oturduğun yerde orada mecburen kılınıyor.
Then you may perform your prayer while sitting.
Çünkü yolculukta devenin üstünde atın üstünde de yine aynı şekilde.
While this is a state of travel and you may perform your prayer while sitting, it is comparable when people would perform their prayers while riding the camel or their horse.
Caizdir. Bu da yani kılınması lazımdır.
It is acceptable to perform one's prayer in those situations while sitting, and one should not delay one's prayer.
Tasbih yani bu vaktini geçirmeden vaktin başlangıcında da olsa muhakkak onu kılınsın.
One should not miss one's prayer or not delay the prayer times during journey, but just perform the prayer when it's time.
Bazıları diyor işte onu sonra kaza yapın. Kazaya bırakmayın. Doğru.
There's no need to delay one's prayer and to miss one's prayer and to make up for that prayer later. You may perform your prayer even if you are in the airplane, just on time while sitting.
Buradan hemen kulun seferi olarak 2 rekat kılıp onun yükten de kurtulmuş olursunuz.
Perform your prayer even if you're on the airplane while sitting. Perform your prayer per requirements. If it's 4 rakah, as you are traveling, perform 2 rakah and fulfill your duty.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الرجل لا يصلي الصلاة ولما فاته منها أفضل من أهله ولما فاته منها أفضل من أهله وماله. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki kişi namazını vaktinin sonunda kılmaktadır. Ancak namaz vaktinin başlangıcından geçirmiş olduğu geçirdiği olduğu zaman ailesinden ve malından daha değerlidir. Yani bu vaktin sonuna kılınan namaz yani daha kazaya kalmayan bile namaz gene fazileti çok o kadar şey ki hem ailesinden hem malından daha değerlidir onun o vakit geçirdiği vakit.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says that the value of prayer and performing one's prayer during its proper time is immense. And it's more valuable than all your belongings, than your family, than whatever you have in this world. And even if you delayed your prayer towards the end, even still the virtue and the merits and the reward of that prayer will still be more valuable than your belongings and your family in this world.
Başında kılsa o kadar faziletlidir. İnsanın ailesi, malı ne kadar kıymetliyse o daha da kıymetli.
So just imagine how valuable your family is, and then imagine how valuable, even more valuable, performing one's prayer on time is.
وهذا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا أخبركم بصلاة المنافق أن يؤخر العصر حتى إذا كانت الشمس كترب البقرة صلاها. Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor ki size münafığın namazını haber vereyim mi?
And our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, asks, would you like me to tell you about the prayer of the hypocrite?
Yani, münafık nasıl namaz kıldığını söyleyeyim mi diyor Peygamber sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem.
How does the hypocrite pray?
O ikindi namazını geciktirir
He delays Asr prayer,
ve onu güneş sığırın iç yağı gibi sararınca kılar. Yani o geciktirir en sonunda hadi kılayım der. O da güneş sapsarı olmuş olur.
the hypocrite delays Asr prayer, the afternoon prayer, so much that he performs the prayer just before the prayer time ends, when the sun has already become yellow or orange.
O münafığın namazıdır.
That is how a hypocrite performs his prayer.
Onun için o vakte kalmadan ikindiyi hemen kılmak lazım.
Therefore, one should not delay one's Asr afternoon prayer, but perform it on time.
صدق رسول الله فيما قال وكما قال. زيادة على شرف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه الكرام، وإلى أرواح جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين القدماء شرائعهم، وإلى أرواح الأئمة الأربعة، وإلى أرواح مشايخنا في طريقة النقشبندية العالية، خاصة إمام الطريقة وأوس الخليقة خواجة بهاء الدين محمد ويسيل البخاري، سيدنا عبد الخالق الجواني، مولانا الشيخ شرف الدين داوساني، مولانا الشيخ عبد الله فايز داوساني، مولانا الشيخ محمد ناظم هذا الحقاني، وسائر ساداتهم والصديقين ومن حفاظتهم Mücahid Hüseyin Efendi ve Refaka Hacı Mustafa Turay ve cümlemizin geçmişler ruhlar için, şehit şuhadaların ruhlar için La Teala'l Fatiha.